Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for attending PECB webinar QMS Performance Indicator Development. PECB is proud to announce that we will have weekly webinars covering different topics from all standards that we cover. My name is Leonora Miako. I am the PECB Product Manager for QMS at PECB. This webinar is going to be presented by David Smart, Managing Director of Smart ISO Systems Smart Mentoring. David, please, may you start the presentation?
Yes, well, thank you very much, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to present this. What I'm going to talk about is ISO 9001 and linking it into Six Sigma. So I'm just going to start now. So, the quality manager's role. Too often I encounter situations where the quality management system, the quality manager runs the system on his own, sometimes on a part-time basis. The system is never developed to its true potential, and the other managers never buy into it. They constantly circumvent the procedures and give verbal and written instructions to their staff, usurping the documented information change control system, which they don't usually have the authority to change the procedures without discussing the knock-on effect with others. The forum for this is the management review meeting. They also don't usually give their changes a proper trial to bed them in and assess them. They only give an instruction and expect their staff to adhere to it. Now, in balance sheet terms, if the quality management system was a balance sheet, then it would be put on the liability side of the balance sheet in most cases, not the asset side. It is usually accepted as the cost of doing business, opening up doors to be able to tender for contracts, and monitored by the finance department, who only log the costs, not the benefit. And my experience of financial directors' attitudes in general, all too often I hear them saying, we get nothing out of this, it's costing us £6 a year, we would get rid of it, but some of our customers demand it. What I want to look at now is when you should have a quality management system in place. Now, if you look at the arrow across the centre, that is a communication channel. And we're looking at the communication mixes between small companies and large companies, and the tipping point where the verbal communication can't be sustained. Now, if you look at the left-hand box with the small company, you'll see some of the characteristics that everybody just mucks in. There's very little structure, etc. So the secret in this system is to get the balance right between verbal and written communication. Processes become more mature over time, and there is no need to have heavy levels of documentation to support the processes. Code and practice can carry it. If we use the Pavlov dog analogy, then if we do the process regularly, we carry out the good practices automatically. Another example would be driving. On a regular journey, we often forget where we are in it and say, have I passed this point yet? We do it automatically. We don't think about it. How we do our job should largely be like this, automatically carrying out best practices because we have been trained in them. Now, in the centre, you'll see the tipping point, the characteristics, small organisation, and the tipping point where verbal communication can't be sustained on its own. This is often when an organisation decides itself that they can't continue to work in the same way as when they were smaller. And the next issue is imported documentation and procedural changes. It is no good just importing a procedure from a larger organisation and think it will fit yours. It won't. You will have different working practices and methods, differing cultures. Even though one of your competitors has premises near you and you provide similar products and you think you can adopt this procedure, it will fail. All too often, I see newly appointed managers think they are new brooms and must sweep clean. They pick faults with the existing procedures within the company they're running, or import the bad practices from where they have come from, because that is the way they've worked. This should be discouraged, and they should be asked to find the 20% that could be improved on, not remove the existing procedure. Another trap is to build in safety nets. If a procedure is not working, rather than investigating and correcting the existing one, they put in another one. Capturing the information for analysis is where the big savings can be made. All too often, the quality management system implementation is embarked on because of contractual requirements and is usually sold from a marketing standpoint. It is about looking at the company's resources, 4 M's, money, machines, material and men, identifying where in the processes non-added value is occurring and driving the waste out of the system. Missed opportunities. There are between 40 and 50 processes in any company, working both independently and dependently. For example, sales and manufacturing. Generally speaking, it is recognised that in a raw process, an improvement of 1/3, 33%, can be achieved. I did a job in Toronto and identified $1 million worth of opportunities within an hour of working with the management team. Unfortunately, this was not followed through on. The quality management system should be like a training manual. A mechanic, when he services your car, does most of it by memory. But if he hasn't worked on the brakes for a while, then he looks at the service manual, just to remind himself. The same thing is true of a good quality manual. It's used as reference and also to train new staff up quickly. Standardisation of working practices. Again, because of lack of training, the concept of standardising the method is poorly understood. A procedure is written and enforced through auditing, and it is not explained that the users can change it if a better way is found. This slide will see 4 of the 8 systems for capturing data. Objective setting and measurement. This is often poorly done. The corporate and operational objectives should form a cohesive unit. An army doesn't go to war without a lot of planning and logistics. Think of Rommel's Africa Corps advancing and running out of gas. And then in this country, when we went in on D-Day, before that we had Pluto pipeline under the ocean to supply the fuel for our tanks. Nonconformance. Half the time few are written down, as there is a blame culture operating in the company. Also, when I do audits on service organisations, the idea of nonconformance is alien to them. It's just part of the process, is the usual reply. The same applies to all other departments in manufacturing. We're only measuring the nonconformances when the product has been made, not all the other departments supporting the process. Another factor not often understood is the 80-20 rule. 80% of the problems relate to management, not workers. All too often, operator error is noted as a cause. If the wrong instruction is given by the manager, or the documents the operator is using have errors in them, then the root cause is not operator error, but manager error. Supplier performance. The buyer in most companies only buys on price. The engineer controls the item master file, and the buyer searches out 3 suppliers, constantly jockeying to get them to lower their prices. When a supplier ramps up, then the supplier is not geared for volume and falls flat. This thinking needs to change radically, and the concept of supply chain management adopted, where the supplier, manufacturer and customers are links in a chain, and you are only as strong as your weakest link. Staff training and development planning. This usually is non-existent unless it's something like training on a new computer system or a machine. The role of a manager needs to change from controlling and directing to one of coaching and mentoring. They must take responsibility for developing their staff. Many managers are technically competent but are poorly equipped when it comes to training needs analysis, writing training and development plans and administering them. At best, it is an annual performance review, with it being confrontation and no quarterly follow-up or smart objectives set. Customer satisfaction. This is usually done with a poorly designed questionnaire and filed away in a drawer without ever being looked at. Everybody agrees market intelligence and feedback is gold dust, but they don't put the effort in to find out. All too often, I ask salesmen what their customer satisfaction levels are. They always say more than 90% without a shred of supporting evidence. Another favourite I hear is, I sort the problems out before they escalate. Also, the salesman sees customers as his exclusive domain, treating them as if they were his own, not the company's. Customer complaint handling. The first question to be asked is, what is a complaint? I often find very few complaints recorded. When I go and check the number of credits given to customers, I find a completely different story. I then pose a question, why have you given the customer a credit if he's not complaining? Customer service levels are poor here in the UK, where it is seen as a slur on the staff and they will get a rebuke, rather than seeing it as an opportunity to improve and fill in the whole system to the mutual benefit of the company and its customers. Supplier and subcontractor performance measurements. Again, a common way of measuring this is questionnaires. They are usually cribbed from the internet or a large corporate organisation, and they do not supply anything of use to the company who sends them. When I was a quality manager, I would deliberately ignore requests, and the buyer would ring up and ask why they had not been returned. I responded by saying, what do you do with them when you get them back? The response was, file them away. I only send them out because the quality manager says they are required by ISO. I then respond by saying this is not true. There are better ways of capturing data rather than that. The conversation then concludes by a request from the buyer to return them so we can remain on the approved vendors list so that we can continue to receive their services. Nothing has been learned. It's a lose-lose for both of us, and I'm going to give some reasons why I believe questionnaires are flawed. There's a poor rate of return, so the sample does not represent the population as a whole. The answers are usually done with three faces, a happy one, a sad one, and a neutral one. You usually start by giving them neutral or average scores without thinking about it, then switch to giving them happy scores, then sad scores, then maybe back to neutral. If a company was to use the data, their own profiles would result. The point in the exercise is to measure performance levels. So why ask, do you have a quality management system? Do you have a quality policy? Surely. How many times have you supplied us late? How often have you overcharged us, supplied us for the wrong parts against our order, are all far more relevant. corrective action plan. Every time I do an audit, I write the same thing. Manual data capturing systems need developed. Then relational databases developed from the manual data capturing. Then the company will have a management information system to make more informed decisions by having analysed more information to make these decisions. Customer relationship systems do not get used to their maximum by including QMS data. The company is run on a financial model which tends to be behind the current operating conditions in the company. They produce lagging indicators. The quality indicators should support the financial indicators. Two sources of data give a clearer picture, and if there are differences, then they should be explored and rationalised. The management review meeting. The next slide will show a process-based model to show the management review meeting process. The system data is the inputs, the prior analysis and trend reporting is the transformation, also the discussions during the meeting. The output is the corrective action plan to drive out waste and make better use of the company's resources. It astounds me that a company wouldn't use a quality system in this way. For me, it's self-evident. The model is used to show the quality management system how it works. The objective setting and measurement must be linked into the personnel and departmental functions to link it across the whole organisation, not just the quality department and system. A management review meeting should be used as a reporting mechanism for success and also for discussion on issues along with where the system can be streamlined and improved. Obviously, personal problems with staff development could be discussed in a general framework without using names, but again it depends on changing most organisations' cultures to one of coaching and mentoring rather than controlling and directing. This would also need supporting with department meetings run by the departmental manager on discussing personal development and departmental objectives and feeding the issues up to the management review meeting. Now, a bit controversial, I would think, when I've said that the meeting should be every quarter. The standard only calls for an annual review. It is seen as a chore, is poorly prepared, and no one gets anything out of it. I'm generalising. I know there are good companies out there. It is accepted business practice to report performance in financial terms every quarter, and also in most companies monthly. So why is the quality management system's performance reported in a different way? As I stated earlier, better quality decisions will be made by the company's management team if the data sources come from other areas of the business. Expanding this argument, use the information from the information security, health and safety, and environmental systems to feed into the running of the company, especially now when we're moving towards more and more integrated systems. Any system should be open and transparent, not some mumbo jumbo the quality manager does and no one cares or is interested in it. Just re-emphasising to drive the message home, with the advent of technological development, for example big data, it is much easier than it ever was in the past to gather and disseminate data to manage a business and not just rely on accountancy figures. The more sources data is taken from, then the more likely better quality decisions will be taken based on more information to make decisions on. Use the process-based models to transform the quality management system. Move the system and the company's thinking into the 21st century. Now I'm going to start now and link it into Six Sigma to produce the indicators for the 8 systems I've just spoken about. Other names for Six Sigma, it's a normal distribution, a Gaussian curve after the guy that first produced it, or a bell-shaped curve. Now, as you'll see on the screen there, you'll see 4 sigma to the left and 4 sigma to the right. Now, the first 3 sigma, between the mean, the 0 there, and the -1, will have 33% of the population that we're measuring. If we were taking bolts, 100 bolts, then 33 of them would be between the mean and the -1, and 33% would be between the 0 and the +1. And 13% would be at 2 sigma, and 3% of them would be at 3 sigma. The whole of that distribution would be 99.73, and then you've got 0.27%, which is called the area in the tail. We'll now go on to look at the process of how Six Sigma works. Now the core to Six Sigma is DIMAR, which I've said there on the screen: define, measure, analyze, improve and control. So stage 1 of the DIMAR is the define stage. So in the key steps in the define stage, you've got project selection. Define what the project is going to be, select the team, estimate the time required along with the resources. The next slide shows where and how to gather the data for selection of possible projects. The scope. Define what the scope of the project is by writing up a problem statement. Identify any constraints and what goals and estimated projection savings you hope to make. This can be done using your SIPOC map. Data sourcing and gathering. This is just the first high level trawl. Don't spend too long on doing this, or you will get bogged down arguing about the detail. We'll see the sources on the left there. At the top you'll see the strategic plan linked into the operational plan. Now the strategic plan will normally be a rolling 5-year plan. If we examine this plan, we can see where the company is going in the future and can align our thinking and projects in the same direction the company is taking. The operational plan, this is the next level down and it's usually shorter term, and is set for each operational manager. By looking at what they're trying to achieve, projects can run in tandem and possibly share resources so that win-win situations occur for everyone. Other sources, new legislation or industry standards may be sources for projects, along with health and safety and environmental issues that arise. Look at the audit reports and risk assessments. Fresh pair of eyes, new enthusiasm are all helpful in motivating people to make effective use of resources and raise morale. The tools in the middle section of the slide, we've got financial analysis. By examining the various data produced by financial personnel, will give you ideas you could develop projects from. Customer needs. By reading and analysing complaints, satisfaction surveys, conducting interviews are all areas where data could be gathered from to produce improvement projects. Examination of contract review notes and meeting notes follow on from the review to areas of contention or other areas to look at or where problems may occur. Process analysis. By examining the process rather than the functions, will show where bottlenecks, errors and delays occur. The objective is to truly look at the processes and break down the silo management thinking that goes on in many organisations. I mentioned SIPOC earlier. You can see there it stands for Supplier, Input, Process, Output and Customer. The SIPOC tool usage is often used at the start of a DIMARC project during the define stage, which is the first stage obviously. It is a high-level tool that determines the boundaries, feasibility, costs, etc. before going on to mark the process in detail. I'm going to give you 3 usage scenarios to give those who are unfamiliar with the process a high-level overview, to reacquaint those who have the familiarity with the process but it's faded or become out of date due to process changes, or to help in defining a new process. Aspects of the SIPOC process are suppliers and customers may be internal and organisation that performs the process. Inputs and output examples are materials, services, and information. The focus is on capturing the set of inputs and outputs rather than the individual steps in the process. This is the function in the process map. Start to gather data, for example defects, scrap or rework levels, as input data for your as-is process map. Now, possibly we'll have a little bit of difficulty reading the details in there. That's just a simple, something that everybody knows. Usually, it's an everyday example. Usually I would start in the centre column by defining the high-level steps in the process and filling in the left and right as I go along. Remember, you're not drawing a process map. You're only going to define the main steps of the process and not describe them in details as you would in a process map. Step 2 of the DIMARC project, measurement steps. Define inputs and outputs of the process under investigation. It's easier to define outputs first and work back to the inputs. Draw an as-is value stream map to define the process as it is along with the associated problems. It's too easy to start messing about and thinking about improvement before you've actually documented how it's performing at the moment. Validate the process by taking additional samples to ensure that you've captured the norms for each process step. Create and execute a data collection plan. For example, throughput, cycle times, yields, problems. Assess the process capability. This is the determination of comparing the process spread, Six Sigma, against the spec upper and lower limits to ensure the process is capable of producing parts that are within the defined specifications. And finally, recheck the complete process to ensure that all the steps are included in your map. Now, this is actually a lean map, but I thought it was quite good. There's a lot of data on that, so I hope I'm not confusing you by bringing lean into this discussion. I'm only really discussing Six Sigma, but I thought this would be good to give a visual picture. This is a very simple process to illustrate lean principles. 3 steps internally in the shipping process. There are boxes below each process step. I've taken process step A as an example to explain the information in the boxes. So we look at CT, its cycle time of 300 seconds. The time taken to produce a part. Use a stopwatch if necessary to record the processing times. C/O changeover time is 60 minutes. The time required to switch from producing one product type to another one. This includes clearing away the old batch of the product, setting up time, any prototype testing, right up to being ready to produce the first part of the new product. Uptime is 80%. The percentage time the machine or process is available on demand. Number of shifts is 2 shifts. Available time is 7.5 hours, which is 27,000 seconds. So, to work through the example, TA, total scheduled time for the shift is 8 o'clock to 4:30. So, the TA is 510 minutes or 30,600 seconds. Then we deduct the breaks, which is 30 minutes, the lunch is 30 minutes, the daily planning meeting takes 15 minutes, and clean up at the end of the shift is 10 minutes, so the planned available time is 425 minutes. At the right hand box, the total production time is the 45 plus the 300 plus the 240, which is 585 seconds, and the total lead time is 6 plus 4 plus 1 plus 3 is 14 days. Now again, this is just a simple matrix you can put together. You'll see what I've put in there: number produced per hour, number of defects produced, number of failed tested units, and I put process steps down, time of observation, what day it was, and down the bottom you'll see examples of how the data can be used, root cause analysis, defect levels, and on the right hand side it would be displayed as cause and effect diagrams, histograms, Pareto charts, etc. Key steps in the analysis stage. We're now at stage 3. Value analysis study to determine where added value is being provided and where waste is occurring in the process. Process cycle time calculation, determine what the cycle time is, and then do research to determine your industry norm or what the world-based class benchmark is. Process flowchart analysis, analyze the flowchart you've drawn looking for bottlenecks, constraints, defects, rework rates, compare against a checklist or critical to quality criteria to ensure you meet your customer's requirements. Root cause determination, use brainstorming sessions along with the cause and effect diagrams and any other information you've collected to determine the most likely root cause of your problem. And then validation of the root causes, collect additional data to verify and validate your selected root causes. What I mean by verify is to check, and to validate is to prove. Now, this slide, I apologise, the writing is too small on it. So what I've done with it is I've taken 2 reasons from each of the 4 boxes. You'll see I've taken 4 P's there, policies, procedures, people and plant, and we start with the policies. 2 of them are the quality management system is relegated to taking place, superseded by the supervisor's visual instructions, and the lack of detailed planning by the supervisor. Now, this was for a number of branches that I worked for where they had video equipment out. Next one is procedures, different procedures being used in each branch, and procedures not documented in sufficient detail. And at the people side, poor understanding of the harsh process documentation by the users, they were doing their own thing, lack of training the technicians by the supervisor, and the plant, damage the kit during transit, and shortages in the kits, lack of maintenance, and lack of small items, for example, power cables. So, step 4 in the DIMARC process is the improve stage. Potential solution selected, use Edward de Bono's thinking heart to brainstorm your solution. Prioritize your selected solution by using some form of voting system, for example, known as group technique. Sigma-based practice. Here are some examples: setup time, reduction, design experiments, line balancing, defect prevention, Kanban tool systems. Trial your solutions. Run a trial in tandem with your present method and compare results. Modify the method in light of experience if you need to. Withdraw the old method and adopt a new one at the end of the trial period. Then finally, document the new method. Write up the work instruction and the procedure on the new method after training the operators in the use of the new method on how they're going to perform the task. Ask for their feedback, and when satisfied, allow them to operate the full process on their own. And the final stage is the control. Ongoing metric development. Train operations staff in using the tools, for example, control charts, and involve them in the metric development process to get their buy-in. SOP development. If there are existing flowcharts and procedures, update and validate them against best practice. If they're not already done, then ensure that it is done to provide a record of improvements made. They can be compared against the current state mark if required to demonstrate the improvement in costs. That's why I said earlier, when you're doing the as-is mark, it's important to document as a baseline where you are currently, the tendencies to start thinking about improvement. And the next point is visual indicators. Use dashboards to show everyone the results so they are transparent. Also, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, you just need to think about a dashboard on your car where you've got loads of information in front of you, right in front of your eyes. That is the concept, and it's very much about being visual. Now the next 6 slides will show you how the calculations are made. You'll see here we start off with 1,500 units and we end up with 1,411. It's a very, very simple process. There's only 3 steps in it, and you'll see that the reworking after the first step is 30 units, and then next 15 units, and then 44 units. The yield, the first time pass rate in step 1 is 98, step 2 99, and step 3 97, and the sigma, corresponding sigma, is 3.6, 3.9, and 3.4. I'm going to show you how these calculations were done. So the yield, or the final yield, take the 1 minus the total number of reworked units, divide by 1,500, and you get 0.94 or 94%. Or turning it on its head, the cost of poor quality is 94 away from 100, which is 6%. Here's the sigma calculations for step 1. The yield was 0.98, there were 30 defects divided by 1,500 units, so the calculation is 0.02 or 2%. The equivalent reworked units, if 1 million were produced, would be 20k. The lookup table, the nearest number in defects per million opportunities, DPMO, is 220k is 20,182. That equates to 3.55, rounded up to 3.6 sigma. And you'll see there that the red arrow there, you'll see it's at 3.55 and it's rounded up to 3.6. Step 2, exactly the same. This time it's 3.85 rounded up to 3.9. And you'll see down there 9,387, you'll see there. And the final one is exactly the same, 44 divided by 1,500 is, and I've rounded it up, 0.29 or 3%, and it works out at 28,770 717, sorry, and that equates to 3.4 sigma. Now, I want to show you the next one using Six Sigma. This is not how to produce a performance indicator. Now, I apologise, some of the colours, you'll have difficulty seeing it, but I'll talk you through it. The mean target value has arbitrarily, somebody's just thought that off the top of their head that that's a purple line. They'll say that it would be good if we could reach a target figure for processing 100 bank statements in 20 minutes. So in actual fact, what we've got here is, you'll see the blue line there. If we look at the average time, which is the light blue line, is 28 minutes. The target value will never be met unless there's a more efficient way it's found to do the job. So the next 2 points to bring out in a process is that there, but anything below the yellow line is set at 3 sigma. And that is inherent variation within your process. Any process has inherent variation. No two people will serve a meal at the same time. No, a machine will not, in the Royal Mint, will not punch out pound coins exactly, two of them identical. Or in nature, no two apples are the same shape, etc., etc. And the final point to make there is the assignable cause, which we've got 76 minutes where the computer crashed, and it took 76 minutes to finish processing the batch. Now back to looking at where the benefits can be had out of it. This Six Sigma is, research has shown that most businesses perform at around 2 sigma. You can see from the figure that each shift in sigma yields significant improvements in reducing the cost of sales, especially in the time of recession. It can drastically help a company to survive. And finally, ending off, I've just done some external performance indicators. And the first one I've used is complaints and arrest journal. When we were speaking about Pareto analysis earlier, Alfred Pareto studied the wealth distribution in the 19th century and found out that 20% of the population in Italy had 8% of the wealth. There are many examples in our working life where we find these examples. 80% of our sales will come from 20% of our customers. 80% of the value of stock will be tied up in 20% of the items. The analysis of the graph. Another name for Pareto analysis is the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the categories account for 80% of the problem. In this case, we find that delays in bringing food to the table is the biggest problem, 45, followed by allowing smoking is 30 complaints. If we eliminate the top 5 categories, guys, we would have got rid of 80% of why our customers are complaining. Use in processes. We can use this type of analysis in all our processes to identify, prioritize and drive out the waste in them, thereby focusing on our resources on the vital few and ignoring the trivial many. Now we'll have a look at supplier performance. I spoke about that a way back at the start of the presentation on ISO 9000, about asking about quality management system and quality policies. So I've put together a chart here that most people will tell you price is the most important thing, Usually when you go into it, that's not the case. There's other things that are more important. You can see that over the quarter, the overall score for price is 6. If 5 is taken as a going rate, we can see that this supplier is charging more for their products or services. Price has been nominated as the most important, but usually other factors are considered more important. For example, delivery on time and the current spec consistently met. Product quality. And this is listed as the second most important criteria against the customers. This product is scored 8, not 10, so there are factors to improve here, or maybe consider more demanding criteria. Technical support, the third most important criteria, has only been measured as average, yet is the third most important factor for the company. There is scope for improvement here. Delivery, clearly someone is doing things right and is organised, as the delivery criteria has consistently scored high, 9. The benchmarking exercise mentioned in the technical support and sales department, mentioned in the last paragraph, could include the delivery department best practice, especially in the technical support areas, which is rated third in the company's criteria. Sales and service. It appears that when ringing up the company and dealing with complaints or processing of order information, they score average. In both departments, they let the company's overall performance down. A benchmarking exercise between the two departments could be one way of driving up the overall performance of the supplier. Lead times. This is the last and least significant set of criteria the company has chosen to measure. This may be that the company has buffer stock, can easily get the product from another supplier, or this supplier is on the doorstep, so logistics is not a problem. Here again, it's scored 6. Finally, this graph could be part of a management report and also be sent to suppliers, especially the ones who are underperforming, rather than just giving them a score and saying they need to improve. The graph shows the important criteria and also how they could improve. And that concludes my presentation. I thank you very much for listening to me, and I'll now take any questions if you want to ask me any.
David, excuse me.
No?
Can you see the questions?
No. No. Do you have them in front of you? Can you read them out and I'll answer them?
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a question. How do we develop a checklist as a guide for performance indicators?
Develop a checklist. I'm not sure what the question is. Is it an audit checklist against performance indicators? First of all, I'd like to say that you can measure anything and everything. The most important thing is to get critical success factors, which is only 5 or 6. You need to segment your market, find out the 5 or 6 things your customer wants, and then put in internal measures to do that. I presume you mean by the checklist your audit checklist, or even within your processes develop measurements within your processes to benchmark internally what your indicator is, then go back to your customer and maybe 3 months later and see if there's an improvement. I hope that answers the question anyway. If not, you can re-ask it, send me an email.
Okay, thank you. Another question is that could you discuss some additional examples of performance indicators? How do you select them?
Right. Well, again, they've got to be relevant to the company. And there are many, many opportunities that I've given. Now, objectives for an organization could be a good starting point, where managers are trying to get results and they know what the problems are, so you can use the tools of Six Sigma to measure the results that you're getting and the problems. Also, from your management review, the problem most of the time is it's just garbage in, garbage out. I find that very little gathering of information is done. That it's a hassle to document things down. You have to spend time and encourage people to write things up. The next problem you get is, what's the point of me writing them up? Nobody does anything about it, and they just get covered up, or they're filtered out, they're given to the foreman changes arm, they go further up a tree, they get filtered again. So this whole area of collection of data is difficult to do, but it's well worth the effort.
So I will read another question. Are you saying that management review must hold every quarter for a firm to be compliant?
No, not at all. I mean, the use of word comply is, I mean, the standard only calls for you to do a management review meeting once a year. Now, sometimes, especially manufacturing, production manager will hold weekly meetings on issues, and it's not unusual to tag on some of the topics like non-conformance or customer complaints at the weekly meeting. The only reason that I've suggested doing it every quarter is that it's about comparing apples with apples. If you report the financial information every quarter, then you want to compare the quality management system indicators in the same period of time. And then you look at them, and if there's a difference, if they support the financial indicators, then that tells you one thing. If they don't, that's going to tell you something else and should be a reason for investigation, all too often the quality indicators are poo-pooed and the financial indicators are taken as gospel. So it's about changing, especially now where much more information is available to a company, and while a manual system of getting information together will not work for you in the long term, because whatever you've analysed, you'll get 300 other questions from it, but you've got to start off with a manual system to get people used to it and then move to a computerised system. But there are many computerised systems now where you can set your management review meeting, put the questions that you're asked in, and then give an answer. You can analyse right there at the meeting. So the whole thing at the meeting doesn't lose its credibility. It's a valuable management tool to provide results. Also, I didn't say financial indicators report what's happened in the past 3 months, and they're lagging indicators. Now the quality indicators are nearer leading indicators, so they should be nearer or better to more accurate information. Reporting what's happened in the past does not necessarily represent how the organisation is currently performing.
Another question says, will it be appropriate to use QMS performance and indicator for employee performance scorecards?
Yes. I have seen training needs analysis done in Six Sigma, where somebody will say that performance isn't up to standard, but if you're doing a group of people, we'll say 10 operators or something, you can use the Six Sigma as a way of showing the inherent variation. I spoke about weighted serving meals, which people orientated. Now the same thing can apply to a service organisation, a call centre, processing calls, or somebody assembling something in manufacturing. You can look at the Six Sigma and get your inherent variation just the same way as I showed you with the bank statements.
Another question says, please, I need clarification on Sigma calculations process steps 1 to 3.
Well, I think the easiest way to do that is we're going to put this PowerPoint presentation has been recorded up online. You'll be able to see the calculations on the slides to go over it. If you want further clarification on it, send me it by email and I'll redraft it out again for you.
Okay, thank you. Another question is the last one. Who should be responsible for performance indicators development within an organization?
That's a very good question. Now, we're about to change over from the 2015 for ISO 9001. One of the things that's coming out of that is there's no need to have a quality representative. If you've got one, that doesn't mean to say a quality manager gets fired. But the whole concept of making one person responsible, we talk about the phrase, everybody's responsible for quality, then it ends up as being nobody. Now, in my view, the quality manager has a tremendous contribution to make within any company, and quality manager needs to understand more about how a business works rather than the technical side of quality. If they can combine the two of them. So where I'm heading with this is because it was felt in the previous standard, the 2008 version, that the role of the quality manager was getting pushed far too far down, and it's not unusual for me as a quality manager to be told from directors of the company, keep the notified body away from me. I don't want to see them. Now, that is a problem in organisations about the quality agenda getting pushed too far down. And what I've been pushing all afternoon is that the ISO 9000, especially the new when it's coming in September, the 2015 version, it's about distributing the role within the quality system to the management team, not just flinging it on the quality manager's shoulders. And it's not unusual for a quality manager to get fired because of a bad audit. And if he's not got the authority to influence the rest of the management team, or is not seen at the same level, then it's difficult. So that's why the standard was changed, and that's what I've been pushing all afternoon.
So thank you very much, David. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar. You can check PECB's webinar schedule in our website, www.pecb.org. Thank you very much.